So some of you are having trouble finding the average daily balance. And so I'm going to show you how to do that in two videos. In this video, I'm going to show you how to find the average daily balance using the list functions on the TI-84. You should use this method if you are comfortable making slightly complicated entries on the calculator, or if you find that you often make mistakes when you are writing out fiddly little details. So, to use the calculator, I'm going to use the list functions. Now, to get to the lists, I actually press this Stat button. You can see here a record of what keys I pressed. And I say Edit. And I have lists 1, 2, and 3 up here. I'm going to use lists 1 and 2 in doing this problem. And the first thing I'm going to do is copy the given information that's most important into the calculator. The important given information for finding the average daily balance and the ending balance is the dates, and I'm just going to copy the number parts of the dates: 1, 2, 10, 11, 20, and 21. And then I'm going to copy the amounts. The beginning balance is $14.53, and then I have charges of $59, $54, $69, $113, and $142. And the thing to notice is that right now I have the same number of entries in list 1 and list 2. If I did not, that would probably mean I made a mistake, and I'd have to go back and fix that. One common mistake in using this method is to miss entering a value. And I'm just going to quick proofread and make sure that the numbers I've entered here are the same ones I have in my table, and they are. Okay, now what? Now we're going to use the calculator to replace the numbers that we have in our list now, which are the transaction amounts, with the balances on those days. And notice, to find the balance on a date, we take the previous balance plus the transactions on that date. So what we're going to do in this list 2, we want a cumulative sum. We want to add each number to the previous number, and to the sum of all the previous numbers. So here's how we do that. I'm going to say second and then list. I hit the second key and then the stat key. Notice it says blue above stat. I'm going to go one to the right to the operations menu, and I'm going to find this cumulative sum. That's what this stands for. Oh, sorry. Before I do that, notice that that tried to enter this as the next item in this list. That's not what I want. To get out of this list screen, I say second quit. In the main screen of the calculator is where I want to be to do all of these clever list functions. So now, second stat to list, or to get the list menu, operations, cumulative sum. And then I want list 2. Notice it says L2 in blue above the number 2. So to get L2, I'm going to clear the key press history so this doesn't keep scrolling. So to get L2, I say second, and then 2. That's L2. Okay. Now, when I do this, it just shows the result on screen. That's not much use to me. What I actually want to do is take this cumulative sum and store the result somewhere. Now, I could use another list, but I don't want to have to scroll left and right through my lists. So I'm just going to store the result back in L2. And now when I go to Stat, Edit, notice I no longer have the numbers that I entered in L2. Instead, I have these cumulative sums. So on the first, the balance is 1453. On the second, the balance is 1512. On the 10th, the balance is 1566, and so on. Now, we already have the answer to one of our 2 questions. Our last balance here is 1890. That's the balance at the end of January. Okay. Now what? Well, to find the average daily balance, we need to know how long each balance lasts. Well, and why do we need that? Because the average daily balance is the sum of all of the daily balances, right? So we take the balance on the first, plus the balance on the second, plus the balance on the third, plus the balance on the fourth, and so on. We don't list the balance on the third or the fourth, but looking at this, well, on the fourth, say, there haven't been any transactions since the second, so the balance on the fourth well, that's the same as the balance on the second. It's 1512. So we're going to add in a copy of 1512 on the second, and one on the third, and one on the fourth, and so on all the way to the 9th. But then on the 10th, the balance is 1566, so we're going to add 1566 for the 10th. What we want to do is repeatedly add the same balance for the number of days that it lasts. How do I find out how many days each balance lasts? Well, to find out how many days each balance lasts, I take the next date minus this date. And the calculator has a function for that. Again, I'm going to quit out of here because I don't want to just enter this as a list item. I'm going to go to my list menu, operations, and the option that I'm looking for now is this triangle list. What is that? This little triangle, I read this as delta. It's the capital Greek letter delta. You don't need to know that, but it's useful to be able to say it as delta. And what that means is the change between items. So if I say delta list My days are in L1, so I'm going to say second L1. I've learned my lesson. I know I need to store this somewhere. And this time I'm going to store it to L3 because something's going to go wrong. And I want to keep what I have in L1. Whoops, what did I forget? Yeah, I forgot to hit second. L3. Right, L3 is in blue above the number 3. So I'm taking the delta list of list 1 and storing it to list 3. Okay, let's see what goes wrong with that. Let's go back to Stat Edit. What went wrong is that we don't have how long this balance of 1890 lasts. Right, we took 2 minus 1 is 1, 10 minus 2 is 8, 11 minus 10 is 1, 20 minus 11 is 9, 21 minus 20 is 1, but then we need to know what to subtract 21 from. This delta always gives us one less number. We don't much like that. Okay, so that balance on the 21st, that balance of 1890, that'll be the balance on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th. We're in January, which has 21 days, and the 31st. And then, so to find out how many days something lasted, we took the day after it ended minus the day it started, right? The balance of 1512, that was on the 2nd through the 9th. We took 10 minus 2 to see that it lasted 8 days. Well, the day after the 31st would be the 32nd. There is no January 32nd, but if there were, it would be the day after the 31st. We're going to enter 32 as an extra item on this last list. In general, this is going to be one more than the number of days in the month. So if it's a month with 31 days, we use 32. If it's a month with 30 days, we use 31. If it's February with 28 or 29 days, and we'll be given which kind of February it is if that shows up in these problems, then we'll use one more than that, so 29 or 30. It is okay to look up how many days there are in the month if you can't remember off the top of your head, or there's a poem to help you remember, or there's a shortcut with the knuckles. Use whatever method you use. So now, quit out of here again. I'm going to say this delta list to list 3 again. And now that we've put in that 32, now we have the 1890 balance that lasts for 11 days. And you can count these days and see that that really is 11 days. Okay. So what do we do with this? So the average right? That's the sum of all of the balances over the number of days. And to find that, we're going to take the balance times the days it lasts, and we're going to take each of those and we're going to add them up. That's what this symbol means, add them up. And divide that by the number of days. And again, there is a slick way to do that on the calculator. We want to take every entry in list 2 and multiply it by the corresponding entry in list 3. To do that, I'm going to clear this history again so that you can see what keys I'm pressing. We're going to say list 2 times list 3. And notice that that gives us a list of big numbers that are what we get when we multiply the number in list 2 times the number in list 3. Okay, but again, that's just a big list showing up on screen. What do we do with that? Well, we want to take its sum. There's an app for that. Right, if we go into our list functions again, and this time we say math, we want to take the sum. We want to take the sum of all of the numbers in the list we get if we multiply list 2 times list 3. And that gives us 52,368. That's the total of all of the balances on every day in January. We divide that by 31 days in January, and we get an average daily balance that rounds to 1689.29. So that's how to find the average daily balance using the fancy calculator. You should use this method if you're comfortable using the calculator or want to get comfortable using the calculator. And you should definitely use this method if you're like me and make lots of copying mistakes. I use this method when I'm trying to find the answer to these kinds of problems because I know that if I do it by hand, by writing out all the numbers, I will make copying mistakes. So I like this method. I think that it's easier, but you can also write it out by hand if you prefer. See the other video for a walkthrough of the method of doing this by hand.